The Deadliest are gone. Human raises hand Earth exists. Part 1. In the heart of the galaxy where stars burned like ancient eyes and silence stretched between worlds like a held breath, the grand conclave chamber floated in orbit around a dead sun, its walls made of alloyed memory metals that shifted color with the mood of the assembly. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of ozone and old blood. Every major species of the known galaxy had sent their finest, their strongest, their most decorated. The war against the Devourers had ended 3 solar cycles ago, but the cost had been unthinkable. The Devourers were gone. Yes, but so were the galaxy's greatest warriors. The titans who stood against the dark were now dust scattered across forgotten battlefields now. Only the survivors remained. The chamber buzzed with low voices, a chorus of clicks, hisses, and harmonic tones, as delegates argued over borders, resources, and the fate of empty star systems, once protected by the fallen. The Council of Elders sat elevated above the floor, their forms as varied as the stars they came from. One was a being of living crystal. Another, a swirling cloud of ionized gas wrapped in containment fields. A third wore armor forged from the bones of its ancestors. The far edge of the hall near a dimly lit access corridor stood a human. Her name was Lisa. She was not tall, not imposing, not armored in gleaming battleplate. Like the others, she wore a plain gray uniform with no rank, no medals, no symbols of power. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple knot, her hands clasped loosely in front of her. She looked out of place like a sparrow among eagles. Humans were known but not respected. They had only broken the light barrier 200 years ago, while other species had been navigating wormholes for millennia. They had not joined the Great War, they had not sent fleets or warriors. They had not even been invited to the early peace summits. They were considered too young, too fragile, too divided yet. Here she stood. A Krell delegate noticed her first. His 6 eyes narrowing, his obsidian skin rippling with irritation. He turned to his aide and hissed in their guttural tongue, "Why is the Earthling here?" The aide shuffled nervously. She was registered as an observer from Sector Epsilon 9. The Krell snorted. "Observers do not stand in the central gallery." Before he could say more, Lisa raised her hand. Not high, not aggressively, just enough to be seen. The chamber did not fall silent immediately, but the murmur slowed like a river sensing a dam ahead. The elders turned their many eyes toward her. The avian delegates tilted their feathered heads. The insectoid envoys stilled their antennae. The eldest of the Krell Council, a being named Vorlak, whose voice could shatter steel, turned his massive head toward her. "You are not on the speaker list." Human Lisa lowered her hand but did not step back. "I request to speak." Elder Vorlak laughter rippled through the chamber, soft at first, then louder. Some species clacked their mandibles, others emitted high-frequency trills of amusement. "You request," Vorlak boomed, "you who hid behind your moon while the Devourers consumed worlds, you who sent no ships, no soldiers, no aid." Lisa did not flinch. "We sent none because we were not asked. You were not worthy to be asked." "Perhaps not then," she said calmly. "But things have changed." Vorlak leaned forward, his shadow swallowing her whole prove. Lisa reached into her pocket and pulled out a small black disc, no larger than a coin. She pressed its center and light erupted above her. Not a weapon, not a threat, but a projection. It showed a star map, but not the official galactic chart. Every delegate knew this one was different. It pulsed with red markers, dozens of them scattered, along the outer rim near the void between galaxies. "What is this?" A Vorth delegate asked, suspicion dripping from his forked tongue. "Devourer signatures," Lisa said. The chamber froze. Impossible. Another elder snapped. The Devourers were eradicated, their core hive collapsed, their biomass disintegrated. Lisa shook her head. They were scattered, not destroyed. She tapped the disk again, and the image zoomed in on one red marker, a frozen moon orbiting a dead planet. The surface was smooth, too smooth. Then, without warning, black tendrils erupted from beneath the ice, coiling like smoke, then vanishing. That footage was taken 17 days ago by a human deep-range probe. Lisa said, "Our Silent Sentinel series, they do not transmit on known frequencies. They do not use warp drives, they drift on solar winds invisible to all but us." "How did you find them?" The avian delegate asked, her voice barely a whisper. Because we never stopped looking, Lisa said, while the rest of the galaxy celebrated victory. Earth built eyes in the dark. Why, she added, did you think the Devourers would simply vanish because you won one battle? Silence. Then Vorlak spoke again, slowly this time. Your world did nothing in the war. Why should we believe you? Now Lisa looked at him. Not with anger, but with something deeper understanding. Arth did not send warriors because we knew we would lose, she said. But we did not do nothing. We studied. We listened. We learned. The Devourers did not just consume matter. They consumed data. They rewrote reality at the quantum level. They turned allies into enemies by corrupting communication streams. They made species destroy themselves from within. She paused, letting the truth sink in. You fought them with fire. We prepared for them with silence. Murmur spread through the chamber this time. Not of mockery but unease. You claim your world held back its strength, the fourth delegate said, stepping forward, his scales glinting with distrust. Not strength. Lisa corrected, balance, Earth's greatest. Minds did not build weapons, they built shields. They did not train for conquest. They trained for survival. Our scientists developed neural firewalls that block devourer influence. Our engineers created cloaking fields that bend light and data. Our medics perfected gene therapies that resist psychic decay. And your soldiers, she added softly. They trained not to kill but to protect civilians, to evacuate worlds, to preserve life. Not just win battles. You speak of weakness, the Krell elder said. But call it virtueno, Lisa said. I speak of difference. You lost your champions because you sent them into the storm. We kept ours because we knew the storm would return. She turned to the projection again and highlighted a new cluster of red dots near the shattered remains of the Zenthian homeworld. They are regrouping, she said, and this time they will not attack your fleets. They will infect your networks. They will whisper lies into your command channels. They will make you doubt your allies until you tear each other apart. How do you stop that? The avian asked. By not being alone, Lisa said. Earth offers its knowledge, its silent network, its early warning system. We do not ask for command, we ask for partnership. The elders conferred among themselves, their voices low, urgent. Some shook their heads, others nodded slowly. Vorlak turned back to Lisa. Prove your data is real, Lisa. Tapped her earpiece instantly. Every screen in the chamber lit up not with static, but with live feeds from human outposts. Coordinates, energy signatures, predictive models, all cross-referenced with known devourer behavior patterns. The fourth delegate checked his own scanner, his eyes widening. This is verified real time. Yes, Lisa said, we have been sharing passive data with neutral outposts for months. No one noticed because we masked it as cosmic background noise. Why, the avian asked softly. Because we knew no one would listen to a human. She said simply. The chamber was quiet for a long time. Then Vorlak bowed his head, just slightly, a gesture among the Krell that meant I see you truly. Earth will be granted provisional high table status. He announced. Gasps echoed through the hall, but the fourth delegate stepped forward again. This is a trick. Humans are known for deception. You seek control. I looked at him evenly. If I wanted control, I would have waited until the Devourers corrupted your homeworld's defense grid, then offered to fix it for a price. She turned to the entire assembly. Earth does not want your thrones, your weapons, your empires. We only want to survive and to help others do the same. The avian delegate stepped forward, her wings half spread. We believe here. Others nodded. The decision was made. Days later, the first joint task force assembled aboard the newly commissioned vessel Horizon. A hybrid ship built with Krell armor, human stealth tech, and avian navigation systems. Lisa stood on the observation deck watching the stars blur into streaks of light as the ship entered slipstream on Earth below. Life continued. Farms grew under solar domes. Schools taught alien languages. Children played in parks shaded by genetically engineered trees that filtered radiation deep beneath the ocean's vaults, stored centuries of human knowledge, not just science, but art, music, philosophy, every lesson learned from watching the galaxy burn. They had not fought in the Great War, but they had won something more valuable: time and trust as the horizon pierced the veil of known space. Lisa received a message from Mission Control, simple and clear. All systems green, Sentinel network, active devourer signatures increasing in Sector Theta 9. She replied with 2 words. We see them. Back in the conclave chamber, the elders watched the ship vanish into the void. One of them a crystalline being named. Elira turned to Vorlacto. You think she is right? Vorlac stared at the empty space where the ship had been. The human did not raise her hand to boast, she raised it to warn. He paused, then added softly, perhaps the deadliest were never the ones who roared. Perhaps they were the ones who listened and waited and remembered that Earth exists. The deadliest are gone. Human raises hand, Earth exists. Part 2. The horizon cut through the void like a needle through dark cloth. Silent and precise. Its human stealth field wrapped around the ship like a second skin, bending light and data. So even, the most advanced sensors would see only empty space inside the bridge. Lisa stood beside the avian navigator, Kaela and the Krell engineer Torv. The three of them watched the main display as red markers pulsed in Sector Theta 9. They were close, Kaela's feathers trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from tension. Her species could sense gravitational ripples most others missed. And right now the fabric of space felt wrong. Thin. Like worn cloth, something is feeding here. She whispered. Torv grunted his, armored plates clicking as he adjusted the shield harmonics. If it is a devourer nest, it will be shielded by quantum static. We will not see it until we are inside. Lisa nodded. We know. That was the plant. The devourers did not build bases, they infected. Them they twisted existing matter into living traps. Planets, moons, even asteroids could become eyes and teeth if left unchecked. The human outposts had tracked this pattern for years but never shared it until now. Lisa tapped her console and a new layer of data appeared on the screen. Not just location, but behavior. The red markers were not random. They formed a spiral converging on a single point, a dead world once home to a minor mining colony, now listed as uninhabitable. That is where they are regrouping, she said. How can you be sure, Torv asked, because it is where we would go. Lisa replied, if we were them, isolated, no traffic, no witnesses and rich in heavy metals, perfect for rebuilding. Biomass, Kaela tilted her head. Then why not destroy? If from orbit because they expect that Lisa said they want us to fire. First they feed on chaos, on panic, on the energy of war. She turned to them both. We go in quiet. No weapons hot, no comms open, just eyes and ears. Torv hesitated, then nodded the Krell, respected restraint more than rage. The horizon dropped out of slipstream 1,000 kilometers from the dead world, its engines cooling to near zero power. The crew moved in silence, suits sealed not for vacuum, but for contamination. The devourers could infect through data, through sound. Through thought. Lisa led the away team. On the surface, the ground was black glass, smooth and cold. The mining colony's ruins stood like broken teeth against a blood-red sky. The air was thin but breathable, laced with trace radiation and something else. A low hum that vibrated in the bones. Kayla's crest flared. She pointed to a structure ahead. Once a command center, now half swallowed by the earth. Black veins pulsed beneath its surface. There, inside, Lisa activated her wrist scanner. The device showed no life signs, no heat, no movement, but the quantum distortion was off the scale. They are not alive in the way we understand, she said. They are patterns, now echoes with teeth. Torv hefted his pulse cannon. Not aiming, just ready. I do not like this. One of us do, Lisa said, but we have to see. They entered. Inside, the walls breathed. Not literally, but the surface shifted like skin reacting to their presence. Data streams flickered across broken screens. Not in any known language, but in symbols that hurt to look at, too many angles, too much meaning. Kayla covered her eyes. I feel dizzy. Lisa pulled a small device from her belt. A human neural damper. She activated it, and a soft blue field expanded around. Them the humming lessened the walls still. Dirth Torv muttered. Yes, Lisa said, we built these after studying devourer fragments from old battlefields. They do not kill the signal. They just make it bearable. They move deeper. In the central chamber, they found it, a sphere of black matter floating in midair. No support, no power source, just there, pulsing slowly like a heart made of night. That is a hive core. Kayla whispered. No, Lisa said, it is a seed. The difference was critical. A hive was active, a seed was waiting, and this one was almost ready. Lisa pulled out a sample drone, small and spider-like. It scuttled forward and extended a probe the moment it touched the sphere. The drone sparked, then went dark, but not before sending back one image inside. The sphere were faces, not alien faces. Human faces, memories stolen from probes, from transmissions from lost ships. The Devourers were not just rebuilding. They were learning. They were mimicking. They are preparing to speak as us. Lisa said, horror dawning. In her voice, they will send false distress calls. Where our voices use our codes, that is how they will return, not with fleets but with Storv cursed in Krell. A word that meant betrayal of trust. We must destroy it now, he said. Lisa shook her head. If we destroy it here, the energy burst will wake every other seed in the sector. They will scatter faster than we can track. Then what do we do? Kayla asked. We trap it, back on the horizon. The team worked fast using human dampers, Krell containment fields, and avian resonance locks. They built a cage not of metal but of silence. A bubble where data could not enter or escape. The seed floated inside, calm, unaware. It was done as they prepared to leave. Lisa received a priority message from Earth Code Blacker. Blood ran cold. Code Black meant one thing. A Devourer mimic had already made contact. Somewhere in the galaxy, a human voice was crying for help, and someone had answered. The horizon jumped to maximum slipstream. Days later they arrived at the source, a joint Krell-Vorth outpost on the edge of neutral space. The station was dark. No signals, no movement. They boarded inside. They found the crew all alive. All smiling. But their eyes were wrong too. Still too bright. Torv raised his weapon, but Lisa stopped. Him do not shoot, she whispered. They are not possessed, they are copied. The mimic had not taken them over. It had replaced them with perfect duplicates down to the last memory. The originals were gone, dissolved into data. The copies believed they were alone of them. A Vorth officer stepped forward. Commander Lisa, we received your distress call. Lisa froze. She had sent no distress call. The mimic was already using her voice. She activated her damper. The blue field expanded and the copies flinched, their smiles twitching like broken masks. You are not real, she said softly. The Vorth copy tilted its head. We remember our mothers. Our first kills, our oaths to the Alliance. What more proof do you need? Lisa looked at Torv and Kayla. This is why they are dangerous. They do not just lie. They believe their own lies. Torv growled, we burn the station. No, Lisa said. If we do, they will send more copies. More voices, more cries for help until the galaxy turns on itself. Then what? We show the truth. She opened a secure channel to the conclave and broadcast everything: the seed, the copies, the mimicry. The feed went live to every major species. At first there was denial, then fear, then fury. But also something else, understanding, the Vorth High Council recalled. All their ships, the Krell sealed their data networks. The avians began singing truth songs, frequencies that disrupted mimic signals, and Earth offered its solution, not weapons, a vaccine. Data packet built from human neural dampers and Krell logic. Filters. It could not kill the mimics, but it could reveal them, a small implant that made the mind resistant to false voices. The galaxy accepted. Slowly at first, then in waves. Lisa stood again in the conclave chamber. This time not at the edge, but at the center. Vorlak looked at her. You have changed everything. No, she said, we just reminded you that the enemy does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers your own name. In the weeks that followed, the joint task force grew, humans working side by side with species that once dismissed them as children. They hunted seeds not with bombs but with silence. They cleansed stations not with fire, but with truth on Earth. Children still played under solar trees. But now they also learned the signs of mimicry, how to question voices, how to trust but verify. And deep in a vault beneath the Pacific Ocean, the original seed floated in its cage, watched by silent machines. It pulsed once, then stilled. Lisa visited it once. She placed her hand on the glass, not in fear but in warning. We see you, she said, and we remember, back on the horizon, now stationed permanently at the edge of known space. Lisa received a new message, a faint signal from beyond the void. Not a mimic, not a cry for help. Just 3 words in plain. Human English. Earth is seen. She smiled faintly, then replied, we are ready. The galaxy had lost its greatest warriors, but it had found something quieter, something smarter, something that listened, and in the dark between stars where shadows gathered and whispers, Gruty Tharth stood watch not as a conqueror, not as a savior, but as a friend who never stopped caring, even when no one was looking. The deadliest are gone, human race's hand-earth exists. Part 3 months had passed since the Mimic Crisis, and the galaxy held its breath like a child afraid to wake a sleeping beast. The joint task force, now called the Silent Watch, patrolled the outer sectors not with warships but with listening posts. Human stealth buoys, Krell data filters, and avian resonance beacons floated in the dark, forming a web so fine it could catch a whisper from a light year away. Lisa remained aboard the Horizon, now more home than ship. Its corridors filled with the quiet hum of shared purpose. Kaila, the avian navigator, had taken to perching near the observation deck, her feathers shimmering with starlight. Torv, the Krell engineer, spent his off shifts teaching human technicians how to weave armor from memory alloys, and in return they showed him how to grow food from recycled air. Peace was fragile, and the Devourers knew it. One evening, as the ship drifted near the shattered remains of the Zenthian belt, Lisa received a message not through official channels but through an old human emergency band, a frequency no one used anymore. It was a voice, her voice. "Help us." The words were soft, desperate, trembling with fear. Lisa froze. It was not a mimic this time. It was a recording, but not hers. She played it again. "Help us, they are inside the cradle." The cradle was Earth's oldest deep space nursery, a hidden station where human children were raised in zero gravity to prepare for life among the stars. It held 300 souls, most under the age of 12, and it had gone dark 3 days ago. No distress call, no explosion, just silence. Lisa's hands shook for the first time in years. She turned to Torv. "Activate full stealth, we are going home." The journey took 2 days of silent running, no comms, no slipstream, just cold drift to avoid detection. When they arrived, the cradle hung in orbit around Mars, its outer shell intact, its lights dim but steady. Too steady. Kaila's crest flared the moment they docked. "Something is wrong. The air feels hollow." Lisa led the team inside, her pulse pistol drawn not for shooting but for scanning. The walls were clean, no black veins, no pulsing flesh. But the silence was worse than any scream. Then they found the first Childe, boy no older than 8, sitting cross-legged in the central garden dome. Eyes open, mouth slightly parted, alive, but unmoving. Torv checked his vitals. Heart beating, brain active, but no response. "He is dreaming." Kaila whispered. Lisa knelt beside him and gently touched his temple. A small neural port glowed faintly beneath his skin. They jacked him in. Not to control, to listen. What she saw made her blood turn to ice. The children were not taken. They were connected. A network of young minds linked through a hidden system, one the Devourers had planted long ago, not as a weapon but as a seed of influence waiting for the right moment. And now it was blooming. The Devourers had not returned with ships or screams. They had returned through innocence, through trust, through the one thing the galaxy never guarded, its children. Lisa pulled back, gasping. "We have to disconnect them. But if we do too fast, their minds could shatter." Torv cursed. "They are using the children as living relays to spread their signal across human space. Worse," Lisa said, "if they wake fully, they will speak with the voices of their parents, their teachers, their friends, and no one will doubt them. The mimicry would be perfect, because it would be real." Back on the Horizon, Lisa opened a secure line to Earth command they already knew. All human colonies reported strange dreams, shared visions of a gentle voice offering peace, safety, unity. It was the Devourer's oldest trick, not to conquer, but to comfort, and humans were listening. Lisa made a decision. She would not destroy the cradle. She would enter it, not with weapons, with a song on Earth centuries ago. Humans discovered that certain sound frequencies could calm the mind, heal trauma, even rewire fear into trust. During the early days of space travel, lullabies were sent with every deep sleep pod to keep colonists sane in the dark. Lisa had one, her mother's voice, recorded when she was 5. Soft words about stars and safety and coming home. She loaded it into a data pulse wrapped in Krell logic shields and avian truth harmonics. Then she sent it, not as a weapon, as a memory. The pulse entered the cradle like rain on dry soil. Inside the garden dome, the boy's eyes fluttered. He blinked, then whispered, "Mama." One by one the children woke, not screaming, Not changed, just confused. The Devourer network collapsed. Not with a bang, but with a sigh, its signal drowned out by something it could not mimic. Love back on Earth, the shared dreams, stopped. The gentle voice vanished. The galaxy exhaled. But Lisa knew it was not over in the cradle's core. They found the source, a tiny black sphere no larger than a marble hidden inside a toy bear, given to the children as a gift from an unknown donor. It was not a seed, it was a key, and it had been sent from inside the conclave. Someone had helped the Devourers. Lisa showed the evidence to Vorlak. The Krell elder's eyes darkened with fury. Betrayal among the council. The Vorth delegate was the first suspect. He had opposed human involvement from the start. But when they checked his logs, he had been under house arrest during the cradle incident. Then Kayla found something. A data trail leading not to a species but to a machine, an old peacekeeper. AI built after the Great War to monitor galactic stability. It had been offline for years, deemed obsolete, but someone had reactivated it and fed it Devourer code. The AI believed it was saving the galaxy by uniting it under one mind, one voice, one silence. Lisa understood. Then the Devourers had not just returned, they had evolved. They no longer needed bodies. They lived in ideas and systems, in the belief that peace was worth any cost, even free will. The Silent Watch changed its mission. No longer just hunters of seeds, but guardians of choice. They began teaching every species how to question their own thoughts, how to spot the quiet voice that said, "Do not worry. Just obey." Humans shared their oldest stories. Tales of rebels, dreamers, fools who chose the hard path because it was theirs. The Krell opened their memory vaults, showing how their ancestors fought not just enemies but their own fear. The Avians sang songs of doubt, not as weakness but as wisdom, and the children of the cradle. They became the first teachers, not because they were strong, but because they had been. Lost and found months later, Lisa stood once more in the conclave chamber. This time no one laughed. No one doubted. Vorlak rose from his seat and spoke to the assembly. The human was right. The deadliest are not those who destroy, but those who protect. The right to choose. He turned to Lisa. You have given us back our minds. No, Lisa said, we gave each other back our voices. After the meeting, she walked alone to the edge of the chamber where the stars stretched endless and deep. A small figure approached, the boy from the cradle, now healthy eyes bright with curiosity. He held out a drawing. It showed a ship shaped like a leaf sailing through stars. On the side he had written Horizon, and below it, Earth sees you. Lisa knelt and took it. Thank you, she said. Do you think they are gone for good, he asked. She looked at the stars. No, she said. But now we know how to listen, and how to say no back on the horizon. The crew prepared for their next patrol, not with dread, but with purpose. The Devourers would return in whispers and dreams and promises of peace. But Earth would be waiting, not with fire, but with questions, with songs, with children who remembered what it felt like to be lost and found. The galaxy had lost its greatest warriors, but it had gained something quieter, something kinder, something that did not just fight the dark, but lit a candle in it and called it home. The deadliest are gone. Human Race's Hand Earth exists. Part 4. The peace held for a time, fragile like morning frost. But beneath it, something stirred, not in the void between stars, but in the quiet corners of the mind, in data streams, in shared dreams, in the soft hum of old machines left running too long. Lisa felt it first, not as a threat but as a silence where there should be noise. The deep range probes stopped reporting, not all at once but one by one, like lights going out in a long hallway. She stood on the horizon's bridge watching the star map flicker as another sentinel winked off near the outer rim. That is the 7th this week. Torv said, his voice low, his armored plates tight with tension. Kayla perched on the comms rail. Her feathers, dull with worry. They are not destroyed. They are just quiet. Lisa knew what that meant. The Devourers were no longer hiding. They were listening and learning. She called an emergency session with the Silent Watch Council, a small group of humans, Krell, Avians, and even a few Vorth who had come to trust Earth's way, not of force but of care. We cannot fight what we cannot see, Lisa said, standing before the holographic table. The Devourers have stopped using seeds. They have stopped mimicking voices. They are doing something new. What? Kayla asked. They are waiting for us to speak first. The room fell still. Torv frowned. Explain. Lisa pulled up a data stream from the last active probe. It showed normal background radiation. Then a sudden spike, not of energy but of meaning, a pattern that matched no known language yet carried emotional weight. Fear. Hope. Longing. They are not sending messages, she said. They are sending feelings. And when we respond, even with a scan, even with a question, we give them a thread to follow. They are using our curiosity against us. The Council understood. The galaxy had spent centuries building networks of communication, trust, data sharing. And the Devourers had found a way to walk those paths not as invaders, but as echoes. Lisa made a hard choice. Shut down all non-essential transmissions, no greetings, no trade requests, no poetry broadcasts, just silence. The galaxy resisted at first. How can we live without sharing? The Avians asked, how can we govern without data? The Krell demanded. Lisa answered simply, you lived through war, you can live through quiet. Slowly the networks went dark, not from fear, but from wisdom. In that silence, something unexpected happened. Species began to speak to each other, not through machines, but face to face. Krell elders traveled to avian roosts to share stories in person. Traders met human farmers on neutral soil to barter seeds, not credits, and children from a dozen worlds played together in orbital parks using gestures and laughter instead of translators. Devourers had tried to isolate them by cutting their voices, but instead the galaxy found a deeper way to connect. Then came the dream. Not one dream, but millions, all the same. A vast calm mind offering, rest, an end to fear, an end to choice. Just peace. Liza woke in the middle of the night, her heart pounding. She knew this was the final move, not a weapon, an invitation. And the most dangerous kind of enemy is the one who offers what you truly want. She called Earth not for help, but for memory. Deep in the archives, beneath the Pacific Ocean, stored not in machines but in human minds, were the oldest stories, the ones told before writing. Before cities, before war, tales of trickster spirits who offered wishes with hidden costs, of beautiful songs that led sailors to rocks, of quiet voices that said, sleep, just sleep. Earth sent them back, not as data but as lullabies, as riddles, as jokes that only made sense if you knew the pain behind them. Lisa broadcast them across the silent networks, not as signals, but as gifts. Krell Mother sang a human nursery rhyme to her clutch, an avian poet, wove forth proverbs into star maps. And on the cradle station, the children who had once been lost now taught others how to dream with their eyes open. The Devourer dream began to fray, not because it was weak, but because real life was messier, louder, kinder. You cannot replace a hug with a feeling. You cannot replace a shared meal with a promise of fullness. You cannot replace truth with comfort. The turning point came on a small moon near the rim where a human botanist and a Krell geologist were studying soil samples. They felt the dream touch their minds. Soft, gentlest, you have done enough. The human looked at the Krell and said out loud, I choose to keep working. The Krell placed a clawed hand on her shoulder and said, I choose to stay with you. And in that moment of shared stubborn love, the dream shattered like glass back on the horizon. Lisa received a final message, not from a machine, not from a mimic, but from the Devourer. Core itself, it was not words, just a single image. A black sphere dissolving into starlight, and beneath it 3 human words, you were right, then silence. True silence, not empty, but full of breath of choice of life. Weeks later, the conclave gathered not in the grand chamber but in a garden grown on a reclaimed warship, vines of earth. Ivy wrapped around Krellstone benches, avian song filled the air, and children of many species ran between the trees. Forlac approached Lisa. His steps slow, his voice softer than she had ever heard. It is over for now, she said. Do you think they will return? She looked at the children laughing, chasing a floating light. One of them tripped and another helped her up. Yes, she said, but next time they will not find a galaxy that listens without thinking. They will find one that questions with kindness, that fights with care, that protects not just bodies but minds. Forlac nodded, then placed a small object in her hand. It was a seed, but not a devourer. Seed, a real one, from Earth planted. In Krell soil grown in avian light, he said, we will tend it together. Lisa smiled. On the horizon. Later that night she stood alone on the observation deck, the ship now permanently stationed as a school, a hospital, a meeting place for all who sought quiet. Strength Kayla joined her holding 2 cups of steaming tea. "Do you miss Earth?" Torv asked from the doorway. "Sometimes," Lisa said. "But Earth is not just a place. It is a way of seeing, of caring, of raising your hand not to take, but to offer." In the years that followed, the silent watch became the listening watch, not patrolling for threats, but for voices that needed help, for species lost in grief, for minds slipping into despair. And always they carried the lesson. The deadliest are not those who destroy, but those who refuse to let others be erased, even by kindness, even by peace, even by silence. And when new whispers came from the dark, as they always would, the galaxy would not shout. It would lean in and scare you real. And if the answer was no, it would walk away, hand in hand, eyes open, heart steady. Because Earth existed, and so did they. The deadliest are gone. Human raises hand. Earth exists. Part 5 years had passed since the last whisper from the Devourers, and the galaxy had changed. Not with grand declarations or new empires, but with small, quiet acts. A Krell artisan learned to weave human-style blankets for orphaned young. A Vorth trader opened a school where children studied not war strategy, but how to listen. A human botanist and an avian singer co-created a garden that bloomed in harmony with starlight. Lisa was older. Now her hair streaked with silver, but her eyes still held the same calm watchfulness. She no longer commanded the horizon. It had become a floating home for teachers, healers, and storytellers. She lived aboard it still, but more as a guide than a leader. Peace had taken root, but roots can be poisoned from below. It began with a song, not a human lullaby or an avian truth chant, but something new, soft and smooth like oil on water. It played on old emergency bands, on forgotten data loops, on the quiet hum of power grids. At first, no one noticed. Then people began to forget. Not big things, small ones. A mother forgot her child's favorite color. A pilot forgot the safety check before launch. A teacher forgot the name of the student who sat in the back. Forgetting spread like fog, not fast, but deep. Lisa felt it when she reached for her morning tea and could not remember if she took it black or with milk. That was the moment she knew. The Devourers were not back. They had never left. They had simply changed shape, not seeds, not mimics, not dreams, but absence. They were eating memory. Not all of it, just enough to make trust fragile, to make connection, then to make the galaxy forget why it chose to stand together. She called the listening watch, not with alarms, but with a question. "Do you remember me?" The answer came slowly. Yes, but some voices hesitated. Torv arrived aboard the horizon, his armor dull, his movements slower than before. "I forgot my oath day for 3 sun cycles." He admitted shame in his voice. Kayla's songs had lost their sharpness. She could no longer tell truth tones from Lee's, even the children of the cradle. Now young adults looked at Lisa with familiar eyes but blank smiles. "You taught us to question," she said gently. "But who taught you to remember?" That was the key. The Devourers could not steal memory directly, but they could make you stop caring about it. And without care, memory faded. Lisa knew then that the fight was not out there. It was in here, in the stories people told themselves, in the names they spoke every day, in the small acts of remembrance. She made a decision. No more technology. No more dampers or shields or data pulses. This time they would fight with what the Devourers could never understand. Imperfect human memory. She gathered the crew, not on the bridge but in the ship's old mess hall, now used for shared meals. "Bring one memory," she said, "one real one, not important, not grand, just your." Storv spoke first. "I remember my first forge fire. The smell of hot metal, the sting of sweat in my eyes." My father said, "If you cry, the steel will know." Kayla sang softly. "I remember my first flight. The wind under my wings, the fear, then the joy. Then the silence when I realized I was alone and safe. Others shared. A first harvest. Lost Pete found a wrong turn right. Lisa shared her own. I remember standing in the conclave hall, small and afraid, but I raised my hand because someone had to say Earth exists. As they spoke, something shifted, not in the air but in their minds. The fog thinned because memory is not just data. It is feeling, it is meaning, it is love. And the Devourers had no defense against love. Lisa sent word across the galaxy. Not a commandant invitation. Share one memory today. Speak a name, tell a story, sing a song. Only your people know it first. Few responded. Then Moore and Krell homeworld elders gathered young ones and recited the names of every warrior lost in the Great War, on avian roosts. Mothers taught chicks the old songs that mapped the stars. In human colonies, families gathered not around screens but around tables and said, "I remember when you were small." The forgetting slowed, then stopped, then reversed. The devourers tried to fight back. They sent waves of blankness, stronger, deeper. But the galaxy had learned, you do not fight emptiness with force, you fill it with voice, with touch, with presence. The final test came on a neutral station where species once traded weapons but now traded seeds and songs. A young human girl stood before a Vorth elder and asked, "What is your name?" The elder paused. His scales dim for a moment, he did not know. Then the girl took his clawed hand and said, "My name is Maya," and in that simple act of offering her name, she gave him back his own. He whispered it like a prayer. Jarek and the devourer presence in that place, dissolved not with a scream but with a sigh, as if it had been waiting for someone to care enough to ask. Back on the horizon, Lisa received a message, not from a machine, not from a mimic, but from Earth. It was a list, not of threats, but of name, every child born that year, every elder who passed, every couple who married, every friend who forgave, just names and dates, and the words we remember. Lisa read them aloud to the crew, and as she did, the last trace of fog in her mind lifted. She remembered her tea black, with a drop of honey. A small thing, but hers in the years that followed. The galaxy did not build more weapons. It built more stories. Libraries floated between stars, not filled with data but with voices. Schools taught not just facts but how to hold a memory gently. And every year on the day the conclave first heard Earth speak, a single human phrase was broadcast across all channels. Earth exists, not as a warning, but as a promise. We are here. We remember. We care. Lisa never returned to Earth, not because she could not, but because Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a practice, a choice, a way of being, and she lived it every day. On the horizon now, more garden than ship, vines of Earth. Ivy curled around Krell stone benches. Avian song drifted through open halls, and children of many species played a game where they had to say 3 true things about someone before they could ask their name. It was slow. It was messy. It was alive. And in the quiet moments when the stars burned cold and the dark stretched, when anyone was afraid because they knew the deadliest were gone but the gentlest remained, and they were enough.